Ita mitsisiko, ita otaku, connect with some people sees to go. Who's been into my session before? Who has not? Oh, you also, oh, and you, and okay. So we've covered quite a bit of material up to this point, right? You know, that the other agencies, the Language Hub, and of course the Galt, their resource language people have shared quite a bit of their language, their knowledge to you, and that. One of my main objectives is to try to teach the language of how we look at the new world that's here. Because you know, the whole ideologies, those pedagogies you call them, and that the systems that are now here, as part of what we call Canada, Alberta, the municipalities that are here, they came to our home. So as Indigenous people, we had to adapt to these new ideas. As Indigenous people, we had to adapt to a new culture. As Indigenous people, we had to learn, and not only a system of government, but also the language. In those languages that we learned, then you start to go away from the cultures that was, that were, or is, right? So with each language, it has values. Within those values and that, you start to gain the culture of the people, right? Of course, who's Canadian?
Yeah.
Everybody's Canadian, all right? Okay, speak Canadian. Huh? What is Canadian, right? So the whole definition of Canadian is multicultural, right? There are different peoples that come, they establish communities, you know, they come into the culture that is Canada, and they adopt, you know, the cultures of those countries that are now going to call home. And then, of course, English is, you know, the language of Canadians. So any schools that you attend, but you know, they'll all be English, right? They're all going to be English. And that's exactly what's happened to the Indigenous people across Canada is that, you know, the schools established themselves in these communities that, you know, which is a new system. You know, they say that, you know, the new buffalo now is education, you know, which is something that's very prominent. You know, everybody has to achieve those goals. So, as Indigenous people, there's a lot of things that we had to change, not only our culture, but the, you know, the world that is now part of our everyday, and that we have to give definitions that when we see things, we have to give it a name, right? Any new people that came into our home, we have to give a definition of who they are, and then we give them a term, right? And with each new community that's born in Blackfoot country, that we have to identify that, okay, this is called Lethbridge, but maintaining the cultural language of Blackfoot, we have to give it a name so that it's part of our world and part of the culture of the Blackfoots. Who remembers what we call McGrath? Anybody? McGrath. In Blackfoot. This, tell me, in what's the translation? What did we call that? Humpback. Yeah, humpback. You know, because of an individual that lived in that area, that the, you know, the local people, the Bloods, you know, they sold hay into that town, and the person that sold hay to had a very bad back. He was unable to stand up straight in that, so they called him Thomas. And then the town, of course, started being born, and then it became Humpback, Thomas. It's in our language. We have to describe it according to the culture of the Indigenous people of that, right? And you have calendar moons. I mean, a calendar that begins with, of course, December, January, all the way to December. Well, I just learned Blackfoot, we have 13 calendar moons in Blackfoot. The one that has 2 moons during the 12th month is, from what I heard, we had a Blackfoot language symposium and standoff. over 3 days, man. Today was the final day. One of the individuals indicated that October has 2 moons, right? You know, that time it's had 12 calendar moons, you know, and each of the moons and that has a name for them. So they recognize that, you know, there's 2 moons in one of those calendars, which is October. But we, as individual groups and that, as a society and that, we have to adapt to these new ideologies, even the measurements and so forth, the days of the week. You know, we have our own names for our own days of the week, right? 7 days go from Sunday to Saturday. Well, we have to adapt to that because now it repeats, right? Monday is Monday, Tuesday, it doesn't, so we have to sort of adapt to that 7 day a week. So we call those according to our language. Saturday, let's begin with Sunday. Sunday, holy day, not week, Monday. Day after Sikatuik, Tuesday. 2 days after the holy day. Don't just do this Sikatuik. I say that flow. Let's do this. Wednesday. Itawano Tsuki, half day. Thursday. Iga Estino, ration day. Friday. Mami Tsuko, fish day, my favorite time. Mapinaks. Saturday to Thursday, which means the day before the holy day. So what was happening in our communities and that was very influenced by the churches that were established. The Anglican Church, of course, the Catholics. And then we talk about the different people that came and influenced us as a society and that. And we were one of the first people that we called when they came and chased whiskey traders on it. What do we call the whiskey trader? What is the word we call them? We still call the white man according to what we see. Napiquan. The word Napiquan derives from the culture of Napi. And I heard that again over at Blackfoot. We call them Napiquan because they behave outside the normal fabric of our societies, right? They behave themselves very abnormal that we would see normal, right? How they, if you think about the days of the whiskey traders and that, they must have stunk, they must have not changed, so they didn't really have very good hygiene, right? And how they conducted themselves and that would be normal behavior in a regular camp, right? Right? Because we didn't have rules that were written, You and I, we all are governed by the Constitution that was passed in 1982, right? Remember Trudeau, he was kind of dancing around, right? Well, those things give us rights because it's written in the Constitution, right? Well, how did we govern ourselves to the point that we didn't kill ourselves, Because within the culture of those individuals, we had values because we spoke and we lived those values. Those are some of the values that we live by. And we carry them into our communities, in those camps, so that our chief doesn't have the biggest house, right? Everyone's taken care of them, right? Nobody has an upper class. There's no middle class. There's no lower class, right? We were just a people that had one means to keep us going, and that was the buffalo, right? And as a collective group, each individual within that community, the camp, has a role to create some kind of a dynamic group to keep it cohesive, right? So that, I can have a nice buffalo shirt, buffalo jeans, buffalo moccasins, right? Ancient societies, yes, their societies, they figured the Blackfoot is one of the oldest in North America, according to the DNA. The oldest DNA that they found in the first head was right here in Blackfoot country. The oldest dates back when he was riding a T-Rex. So, they were here long enough. So those huge adaptations and that still exist today. But the only thing is now The language we are speaking, we know the culture of the, the English and the Canadians and that, because we have schools in our communities. We have all the entities, right, in my community, we have 4 schools in Canada, 2 elementary, 1 middle school and a high school, right? So, those that now we have a community college in that, so we've adapted quite well. So what's happening is that we have not all the language that was
Our humans set to go like with the Jeffrey.
Yeah. So you know what I mean? We are all parallel to those new ideas and that, but the most impactful people that really had to adapt were the indigenous people. Not only do we have to learn the language, learn a new system, everything. With the disappearance of the buffalo, right? Those skills of acquiring are not replaced by another system. You have to learn that. But the language is still there. We still have the language of those. Like I am a descendant of hundreds and hundreds of years, right? The reason why I have Delaney, because it was an American. The original Delaney came from the bag, cutbank area. That was the original Delaney. And he came into the southern Alberta, married, and then he moved back. But he had 2 children, John Delaney and Mary Delaney, right? And Mary married into the first private man. So all the first riders out in blood to my closer relatives. John Delaney was one of the first people that went to residential school. That generation of people in that, they were one of the first people when they started establishing schools back in the early 1800s. John went to a school called Dunbo Industrial School. I was up in Calgary. Some of them were saying, no, it wasn't in Calgary, it was in High River. There was actually 2 schools. Of course, there was the High River, it was called the Boys Industrial School, and then the Dunbo School. That's where and then the generation after that is my dad. And he went to the St. Paul's Residential School, right? And then if you read some of the information that's in the reconciliation, read some of that stuff on that. That was my dad's generation. And then I went to residential school too, St. Paul's. So it's just only been 3 generations of the school that was established. So school, as far as Indigenous people, is still quite in the sense that, the society that was the English, right? All they did is just continue a system that already existed in their motherland. And they just established communities, new schools, right? So it was something that they were already already, right? It was something that they just adapted to. All they had to do was just survive our winters. That's all. Cold. If you're, some of the history books will tell you that it was the Indigenous people that really helped. So the voyageurs and so forth that ventured how to eat, how to survive off the land, right? Pemmican. Pemmican is called Mugagin. Say that. Mugagin. Yeah, it's Pemmican is actually a Sinal word. Pemmican. Yeah, it's popular, that's what you call it. What do you eat about pemmican? But in our language, it's called Mugagin, which is a mixture of buffalo, berries, and some of the fat. Mix it all up, right? As you're watching a hockey game, that's my popcorn. Yeah, so so those, and how did we eat, right? Also, we lived off the land, so the animals that are here, and that the antler animals, so the prairie chickens. We had fruit, we had wild strawberries, we had meat, coconut geese, all those things were off the land, right? And we didn't see a whole lot of these people in that. There's some of the old pictures we were going through. Oh man, some of those men, they're kind of built like them too, right? I was looking at their legs, hey, real, their knees are quite high like mine. They're tall individuals in that, right? And if you look at some of the women are not in a sense that, did you ever see Pocahontas, the cartoon? No, it's such a false movie. Pocahontas, that they really hauled, you know, they really created an individual that would be like a Barbie, you know? Well, you know, if you look at some of the women in the Blackfoot, so that, you know, they were quite, because they had to work so hard, you know? They were broad, like I said, and not like to say husky, you know, they were built for the tasks that work, they had so hundreds and hundreds of years having to put a teepees, right? Out of hide. It takes pain, buffalo hides to make a lodge of Mortis. Pain. And who does that? It's our women, right? And if you were given that task, and first thing you think about, I had to go to Walmart, you got a bunch of stuff I can use, right? Well, think of those people back in the days of the buffalo, they didn't have those, you know, so readily available to us now. They have to look around, and you know, that's what we do. We go into the rivers and start looking for the rocks. What is the best rock, you know, to use as a scraping instrument? What's the best bone, you know? So that's where I come from. That society, and we've had to adapt big time, but the language still exists, but it had to evolve with the new ideologies that gone are the buffalo. You know, then of course they introduced new animals. One of the first animals that was introduced to us is what? Remember that? Bono, Bonagomita. Bonagomita. What does that mean? Oh, what does it mean? Huh? An elk dog. Okay? So with the new animals that are coming into southern Alberta, into Blackfoot country, we have to give definition to that, because this is an animal that's going to be part of our world. It is going to be part of our environment. We have to give it a name. Bonogomita, elk dog. You know, and with the elk dog, we're able to ride it. My goodness, and we got rid of the eating now. We no longer needed, you know, the duties and responsibilities of the eating dog, which were what? What were our imitas? Huh? Yeah, what kind of animals were they? Domesticated coyotes. And I heard a story at our Black language symposium that one of the biggest tasks, if you want a really good imita, you would get a makui. What's a makui? Oh, okay. I ain't no man. A wolf. If you really wanted the imita, go out and get yourself a makui cub, makui cub, wolf child, right? It's in our names. So, you know, they go, so afterwards, it must have been quite a tedious task, and, you know, we did a DD cut, oh man, we do. Okay, we gotta go find them. Best time is right now, probably, or last month, when they started having pups, go into the dens there, grab yourself an DD cut, bring it home, domesticate it, and there it is, your coyote, your makui, right? So then, of course, you know, with the colonial people as they come, they brought their Indian dogs, right? They brought their bulldogs, they brought their German shepherds, what's another breed out there? Blue Heelers, Chihuahuas, Shih Tzus. So we see the relationship between the owner and the animals. Oh, that's not to see. So the dogs that came after, we started calling them Imika because it's the same relationship we had with our Imikas, the coyotes, and you know, if they're domesticated, you can use them, you know. Horse, when the government came, hey, we have to put a government up. Why we call it Boat of God, it's probably the face. If you look at the elk, you look at the horse, similarities, right? Just, you know, this portion right here, but of course, but they can domesticate the horse. Oh, you know, my goodness, you can tame it, right? You can provide us with some kind of a service in that. And they start riding. One of the early settlers or the early explorers that wrote was Anthony Henday. And he observed that up north, because he was up north too with the Crees and that. And when he came and he observed the Blackfoots with their horse, we were riding them. He wrote down his journals and that, the Blackfoot really adapted quite fast and well. They're riding. Oh, get over this, man. So, of course, that's where we're at. We are still adapting. Some of us are still, let's say, we're still kind of looking into like the education system now. So what we've done, because English was so prominent in our upbringing, is that Blackfoot is lost. The culture of those people are starting to disappear, right? Because we've adapted quite well, so well, is that everybody speaks English now. Everybody. All my children, all my grandchildren, and that, everything we now folks in the English language. So what we're doing is that we're taking the education system that is. We have teachers like myself. We go into these classrooms, and now what's happening is that we're teaching Blackfoot at a school level, at a classroom level. Because we recognize that it's no longer spoken traditionally at home. So the first language of all First Nations people on the Blood Reserve, they'll speak the Blackfoot Confederacy. It's going to be English. Because the parents are not speaking English. We have a total population right now of 2,000 speakers of a 50,000 population of Blackfoots. 2,000. So I'm one of them, just a few of us. The Blackfoot Symposium I went to, oh my goodness, I could just melt. We had speakers there, and when they spoke, it was just so, I understood them well. If they spoke in English, just the message that they delivered in Blackfoot was so much more understanding. There was no, I didn't need someone to say, what is it about? I knew what he was talking about, right? One of the things that I really impacted me with that, it says, if you're born with a language, if your first language is English, my first language is Blackfoot, your knowledge and how you look at the world would be in that language. So my first language is Blackfoot, and I still view the world as a Blackfoot in my language, right? But at the same time, too, English, I can still look at the world in an English fashion as well, too, right? I can wear both hats. Cowboy hat, beaver hat, cowboy hat, and a beaver, right? So, Blackfoot and that, we're starting to right now recognize that it's not quite, I'm not going to use the word endangered, but we're at a crossroads right now. If we don't do anything, Blackfoot's going to disappear somewhere down the line, right? With each new individual being born in that, and we have to start targeting these individuals. Schools are doing as much as they could in that, because we have to follow the learning curriculum, right? So we have to put in so many hours of English, you have to put so many hours of studies, they need to have music, they need to have physical education, but we're telling them, we need to have Blackfoot in those classrooms. And we do. Every student from the Head Start program to the high school, they all receive Blackfoot language class, right? And I taught Blackfoot for the year of 96 to 2018. So how long is that? 22. 22 years? Wait, that's my calculator. The students that I had now, they're all adults, and they still know me by Mr. Delaney. But it's sad to know that, the Blackfoot that we were taught, and that this wasn't enough. So what's happened is that you're teaching a kindergarten student Blackfoot, okay? You teach them for 3-4 hours during that week, he's going to receive lots and lots of Blackfoot. And I'm going to come on, did they see? And the mother, what are you saying? They are going home to a non-speaking environment, right? So there's no continuity in the language as they go home, right? So they taught the language at school, they go home, nothing. What do? YouTube. Hey, let's turn on our Xbox. right? So there's a lot of variables out there that's preventing us to move forward with the language. So what we're gonna do, and hopefully one of us will do that, is create a YouTube channel especially devoted to this Blackfoot, right? I grew up at Buckshot, I run on Buckshot,
Yeah.
yeah. I learned English through the media. There was another show that used to come on TV. And then you found the big book, look up, way up, and I'll call wrestling. Well, the Friendly Giant too promoted the language through song and dance, right? And then later on, of course. So those type of educational programs that are there specifically so that you can be proficient in the English language, right? And they go on adventures and that, you know, misadventures, learning adventures and so forth. So why can't we use these type of instruments and just have a whole lot of Blackfoot out there? We need a Mr. Chris. We need an Elmo, right? We need a Friendly Giant. Or, you know, not necessarily a giant, but maybe a big Indian. You know what I mean? So those are some of the variables that's happening right now, you know, so our children, yeah, they're gonna be learning Blackfoot in school and that, but at the same time, they're gonna be going right back into their homes that have zero Blackfoot. The parents. So what we're doing in some of the institutions, Kristen over there, my goodness. The organization that is the Galt, we started doing language programs in the evening, right? And our audiences are the parents of students that are off in schools. So they get both, right? So we need to have programs not only for the children, go to school, hey, ABC, take what's in the squad, you know. And then the parents can go to a Blackfoot language program and learn it right along. So there's nothing wrong with that, right? Nothing wrong with learning right along. If you're a beginner speaker, accept the fact that, you know what, I am a blood Indian, I want to learn my Blackfoot. And I think that's what our goal is sometimes, right? But you do not necessarily speak the language, but to look at how we look at the world that is, right? We have to live in this world with our language. We have to continue that. And one of the challenges that we have is, Blackfoot is really difficult, especially. You know, I've heard words in this Blackfoot symposium by people in their 80s that spoke a very high Blackfoot. I really had to, it's good that I sat with an element. That's not what I needed. And then he would interpret my own language, interpreting my own language, because it's a Blackfoot I hadn't heard, right? So in essence, I can speak fluent Blackfoot, but there is a higher Blackfoot out there. Hey, you know, and it's those things, it's those higher Blackfoots that really have value within those words. Right? We live the language. The language is alive, right? It's a very verb, descriptive language, right? And how do we know that? Last time I was here, we talked about clanships, right? And clanships are indicators of these persons' personalities, a person's appearance, what they practice, right, and how they appear in that. And we call them accordingly. Name a clan. Fish eaters. Fish eaters. Mammalians, right?
Lone fire.
Lone fighters, need dates, skates, right? Another clan. The Black Elk. That was my grandfather's. Siki, when the cakes. The tall trees, right? The 30 trees, near book squeaks, the 30 trees, right? You all call people clan. And we were trying to determine a name for the group we were teaching. What name did we come up with?
Quiet.
And the quiet ones. Yeah, that was our clan. In spot 6, that was the clan that chose. Nobody spoke. Everybody just sat there. Oh, this is the quiet clan. Right? So it's a very descriptive language. So as the new people started coming into our areas and that, you know, they have terms for them, you know, these are the Japanese, right? These are the English and so forth, right? The Germans and so forth as they come. But we had to get definition much different than what was out there in English, right? And that big one was one, okay? Another group started visiting the big homesteads, right across the river from the community of Standoff, there's a highway column. When you call them highway, it's according to the beliefs that they had in that Jacob Hutter, right? Jacob Hutter, right? There was, so we see that, oh, basics to those, they weren't black, but something prominent within themselves, is to have a round beard. Well, that's a spirit. That's what we call them. It's in our language, right? We don't call them Hutterites, we just call them according to what they look like. That's what we see, and we give definition, and we give them a term, right? And they name the towns. So that's how Blackfoot works, in essence of that. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go right from the very beginning. I'm looking at you, audience, as 2 and 3-year-olds. We're gonna do some terms right here, action terms that you can use with your children, your grandchildren, or anybody that comes to visit your home, okay? That's what we're gonna do. Because how do we develop language? How is it that I can speak English and Blackfoot? Well, in Blackfoot, growing up, nobody in my household spoke English. Everybody spoke Blackfoot, and that's all I heard. If I was behaving bad and that, those boundaries, those behaviors that were, they want to control, was all in Blackfoot, right? Don't be running around, don't break the glass and go fix the TV. So, the commands in Blackfoot, that's probably what I grew up with, listening to the commands. Constantly. In order for you to learn one term in Blackfoot, you would have to hear it up to 50, 60 times before you read it sentences. So if you constantly told these things to control your behavior, pretty soon they just look at you. You don't have to say it anymore. No, I mean, like those terms, right? They keep repeating these terms. Kristen, how many do we have? I haven't said hi to our viewing audience.
What?
I haven't said hi to our viewing audience.
Say hi to them. How could you?
Oh, hey, hi! There are millions upon millions. Hey, the connection. See that? Yeah. See that one up there? The balloon?
Hey.
Hey! Hey!
Would you ask me to make the PowerPoint?
Very done. So how does a person like me get a name like Elaine? Well, I just shared that with you, but some of the people that went to residential schools and then, they actually took the names upon some of the teachers and the priests and then they couldn't say their Blackfoot, okay, your name's gonna be Wells. Because you were playing over there by the well, so your last name's gonna be Wells. That's true, that's a true story. We have Wells up there. Yeah. That's how English names came up sometimes. Man. Because they couldn't say their Blackfoot names, so I'm just gonna give them an English name, but we're gonna give them a first name. We call them Bob. So, very, very, very basic command. Okay? Now, understand this is singular, right? We're talking to one person. Mike, Boxaboo. Okay? That's how that works. Tim, Boxaboo. So Mike's group right there, okay? This is where it's going to change. It's very simple. When I say boot, okay? Singular. Mike's group in this table, I'll say book. This that ending creates a plural form of asking if we can come to you, right? Book, say it. Wait, like this. Yeah, boot. Like a boot. You've always had a little bit of an accent. I don't say boot. I say boot. Let in my butts. Books of boot. Okay? Say that. Everybody, wait. Yeah. Hey, study books of boot. Remember our family? Okay? Hey, don't forget books of boot. You never say that. It's like, so, books of boot. If you wanna make that plural, all you do is just change the key or a kid to a kid. What's a book? Book. Yeah, that's like to read books. Book. What's a book? Plural, what's a book? Come here, right? Remember the word we use for daughter in Blackfoot? Anybody? You're asking your daughter to come. Good enough. What's a book? Hey, and for son, you say, sicky, what's a book? Right? What's a book? Right? So the opposite of that, you remember that the root word of the whole thing of going or coming is right in the middle of it. Boot. Okay? So we just change the prefix to miss the boot. Going. Miss the boot. Right? I always say that to my cat. I'm supporting. Not quite in that fashion, but maybe like that. So what's the boot? Miss the boot.
With accents, is there sort of a pattern? You usually accent the first syllable, and then I noticed I thought you weren't accenting stuff, but you were stuck.
Which one? Miss? Or what's the boot? Yeah, what's the boot? Yeah, what's the boot? Now remember that it's gonna be right hard right off the bat, because you're looking at an H, right? And you already said, what's the boot? You know, you're not sounding that H, you better put that in there. What's the boot? Yeah, what's the boot? No, we got the A, and that's one of the things that they were. The linguistics are always saying, you gotta put that voiceless A at the end of your words. So what happened is we started putting the voiceless A, like gay now. Did you hear that? So when they spell it that way, it's, oh, that's gay now, wow. Ah, it's not gay now, wow, we're talking that. The wow is voiceless, right? That's how this works. It's always gonna be voiceless. Sometimes it'll come out, but for the most part, then it's gonna be a voice. Okay? Minister means going. So either Jehovah's knock on your door, what are you gonna say? Mr. Wood? You know, I have trained my dog, my unit dog. His name is Titan, and he's a cross of a German Shepherd Rottweiler, big dog. And I taught him these two words. If you can teach an unit dog these two words, hey, man, what is so hard? Huh? Minister Wood, what's up? Hey, what's the wood? And he comes. What's the wood? You mean that? Thank you, what's the wood? I mean, I don't know, maybe it's paired with the wave and thing. What's the wood? Minister Wood. Okay, now, Mike comes knocking on the door, I'm glad to hear Mike comes knocking on the door, and I'll say, beat. Come in, beat. Yeah, beat. Yeah, you don't say beat up when you're saying what? An eagle. Yeah, so it's beat. Beat, Mike beat. Plural. If Mike brings his whole group to come coffee, there's 5 or 6 of them, I'll say beat. You know, like a beak. Yeah, beak. Come on in, beak. Beat and beak.
Same thing, change the key.
Yeah, you got all you need to change the key for beat, beak, right? So it's always really, you have to kind of listen to the suffix sound of the words, you know. And when I say beat, and it might understand what, oh, it's just going to be the right? That's how that works. You really have to listen to the Tim, that is Scotty, Tim. The A,
The plural.
the plural is a,
Yeah, so you got K, just K.
wait, it's put K, whatever works for you, okay? This is the proper spelling, you know, because the academic world out there, because Blackfoot is now a study at the university, right? You can take Blackfoot 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, up to 4,000 at the university. So what they did is they developed a dictionary, a standard form of writing, Right? Or is it more important to say than write? But it's kind of both. Mine would be say. I just sit, I just do the guys people. Don't write it, that kind of stuff. We always learn a language and we have to hear it, right? Math, we used to call it arithmetic. Well, that word arithmetic, I had to say that in grade 1 so many times so I can learn it, not to read it. Arithmetic, did you imagine it at grade 1? You never spoke English to say that. What did we study today? Arithmetic. Oh, okay, arithmetic. So, those are some of the things that I want to say. If you want to learn how to say these things, say them, right? But at the same time, yeah, we do learn through phonetics and writing, right? Our brain is instilled in phonetics. Get over the head. Like I did, school.
There'll be lots of phonetics in our new book.
Hey, yeah, hey, come over here. We're gonna promote this. Chris is gonna promote something great. Our sponsors, the Galt.
Hey, today's not sponsored by the Galt, it is sponsored by the Friendship Center. Oh, you're here. I'm really excited to announce that Julius and I, and also graphic design by Tarek and illustrations by Candace Goldchild, are putting out Blackfoot Workbook 2 in September. It's gonna have a lot of phonetics, it's gonna have a lot of meaning, a lot of not understanding. What I've really come to admire about Julius is not just like how fun he is and how kind you are with your time, but how much you know and how much you're willing to share. It's a really huge gift to all of us. All together. Hey. And so we've been working tirelessly since September of 2023, putting together this next workbook, and it's going to be very focused on the land. A lot of plants, a lot of animals, bugs, birds, and it's very more focused on the meaning. So when we were learning, we're learning Monogamita, but now we know what that means, not necessarily like the translation of, if this in English, how can you say this in Blackfoot? And so I'm really excited. We're also going to be putting out a Michif, Southern and French, and a Plains Cree dialect. So get ready for those. And flashcards. Some of this great work from Julius.
Is the first workbook still available?
No, it's online. You can print it, the PDF online, but I just want to again, I know that we still have a lesson to do, but Julius has really held down all of our efforts and all of these institutions and organizations. He's been keeping Blackfoot alive, and I just want to send him some love.
Hey. This has been such kind. Hey. And that's the thing. When the sun rises in the morning, read it with a hey, right? If your numbers go 6 out of 649, then you clap your hands. Clapping hands is something that's, of course, we shared that with them. It's a European concept. We don't clap our hands. The only time we clap our hands is when we're chasing a buffalo over the cliff. We're chasing something. Hey, we start clapping our hands. And all of a sudden, I'll get entertained, and as we start clapping our hands, who are we chasing away here? Huh? So, here we go. So beat, come on in. If you want to put beside there something that will help you say that, put the word beat somehow. B-E-E-T. Beat, right? Beat, come in. And of course, you want somebody to go play outside. They're inside, you're in the room, they're inside of the building, you want them to go out. That's it. Yeah, sit. I kind of broke it down into syllables. Sit. Yeah, sex it. My cat learned, we're gonna teach this to my cat. Sex it, it's in good home. Sex it, go outside, play, from the top. Say it, what is it? Again. Força, put, força, put, força, put, força, put. Now, in order to learn this new word, you have to hear it 30 times in that, right? And if you're kind of walking along, you're going to the mall, and somebody said, "Força, put." We said that. Once you do that, hey, I understand what that person is saying, come over here, right? And all of a sudden, that same person says, hey, Mr. Blue. And you say, oh, hey, that person is telling somebody to go away, right? So, not too many of us are gonna be yelling, Mr. Blue. Beat. The whole concept of how we came about to Oak Key as our welcoming sign, it's all over, it's what hospitals, right? It's at the university, it's at college, it's up here, it's in the mall. What we came up with, how we came up with this, we don't really have a word for welcome. So we had to go back to the days of the teepee Victorious. And this is how this works, okay? You go into a teepee, right? Somebody's teepee, and you wish to see the owner, the person inside that teepee, right? So you would announce yourself, and you would clear your throat, like that, right? The person inside the teepee is either going to say one of two things. I know what they do, honestly. They're going to say, "Oh, key." Okay? The moment he says, "Oh, key," the next thing he's going to say is, beat. Oh, key is the welcome. Okay? You're welcome. And you go into that teepee and that. Sometimes you won't have to say beat. You'll just say, "Oh, key." That gives you an indication that now you're welcome to go inside that teepee. Open up the teepee and you're in. That's how we came up with Oak Key. Okay? It means, of course, hello, but it also means welcome. You welcome that person who's standing outside. He's got some kind of, he's got an important message he wants to tell you, right? Or just a visit. Okay? You announce yourself. Okay. Now they're going. So that's what that is, right? But nowadays it's a doorbell. Either you say beat or that's it. Okay, so now we're gonna go down to where go outside. Set it, set it, plural, set it, yeah. And of course, let's go down to ma go beat. Yeah, ma go beat. Sige, ma go beat. Oh, kira ma go beat. Possible not be, but now ma go beat. Hey. Possible now I said which guys, I know it's stupid, ma go. Ma go. Sit down. We do this with our students quite a bit in the assemblies, and some of them they don't know how to sit and go in front of the assembly and say, go guys, ma go beat, plural. Everybody will sit, ma go beat. Sit down, right? Everybody say that. Again. 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 What do you want me to do? Sit. Ma go beat. Did you hear that, Kristen? I got told to set it. So you want this person that's beside you now to go sit over there, right? Go sit down. Matuya go. Yeah, Matuya go. Since it's simple for me, Matuya go. Hey, Matuya go and sit down, right? So you're asking that person to move away from you to go sit in an area where it's, Matuya go. Right? Mako be. You can use these, right? To your Chihuahua, to your Shih Tzu, yeah. Beat, such a Mako be, right? Obedience, we can do that all in Blackfoot. Over there, I'd like to.
If you're calling a group of people, would you put a K at the where this is sentence like beat?
Mako beat. Yeah, then you put it, just like how we said, beat. So a group of people are all, as I said that, a group of people are all, and if I was conducting, something, after we do our flag song, we sung the old Canada, and then, the PA announcer, okay, audience, Mako beat, plural, okay? Okay, now you can all sit down, all sit down, okay? in your speech as an MC. But in our language, just, oh, okay, my goat beat. Everyone sits down.
You say, with my mouth, my,
Ma,
say,
ma, go beat. Yeah, go, ma, go. The K, of course, those of you who weren't in the phonetics class and that, the K is actually a G. You don't say ma, go beat. Ma, go, beat. But, yeah, beat, okay? That's, like they were saying, why can't you just use the K as a G? It's be much simpler to read it, right? Ma, go, beat. Yeah,
The next one was go sit down, and you've got MA, and then you've got TO. Is it supposed to be TO or KO?
this one here.
Yeah, that,
Yeah, ma, oh, this one over here. This should be an A right there, ma, go, beat.
but
Kristen, can you do that for
No.
us? Change something real quick.
I don't think so.
No, okay, so those of you guys have pens, see right here where it says ma, go. Spell it like that right here.
I guess I could try.
Here, just give me a pen, I'll put it on there. Yeah, ma, go, beat. Ma, go, beat. Go, beat.
This one,
Technology, I love technology.
this one,
Right here, yeah, you're gonna put it A, just like this. A over, thank you. I love it. Tim, she's been in my class since way back before pre-COVID, right, Tim?
is that correct?
No.
Ah,
A-O.
A-A-O. Thanks, team.
A, yeah. Symbols. We never had symbols, we never had to write Blackfoot. Yeah, it's a spelling that has been kind of in debate between Siksika, Peakani, and Amskapi Peakani. Amskapi Peakani's writing system, they use a U and an X in their spell, yeah. Which is, there's some X sounds in our Blackfoots, but that's the letters they use, a U, because the A is actually up, right? P, and U, up, P. Okay, what do ya go be? Go and sit down. What do ya go be? So my go be is just like a command. You're just telling that person to sit down, right? My go. The other one is that you're away from you. What do ya go? Right? Yeah. A new student comes into your classroom and you're looking around and there's empty chair. Okay, be. What do ya go? And you look around. Yeah, you go sit over there. The whole concept of sitting, I tell you, it has taken its another turn in how we would say that, right? In any dwelling, in any teepee camp, and that there's no chairs. So my hope be to that. So the person would just look for a comfortable spot on the ground and sit, right? If he comes into your teepee, and he goes, it's a my hope. So the person would look around and that. Someplace appropriate, they can sit on the ground. Today, we look for an empty chair. Which is, it's, you don't necessarily sit on the ground anymore, you have to find a chair. And then when you find that chair, you look at the people sitting beside that chair, and turn look somewhere else. It's a very selective seating now, right? Because chairs, we call them supats, which is a new word. We never had chairs. Not old people. But a person will say, so it's wrong, but then just beside you there and Skype, right? You sit down. So, the whole culture of sit down has changed to the point where that person can't just look for a comfortable spot, because has to find a place on the ground. No, it has to look for a spot that's kind of appropriate for him. I'm just beside you. I'm like horse tongue, dancing down. I'm passing here, so eventually you're gonna find a seat. So, that whole Mako beat and that, it's changed to, you can see the culture of the people that was and to now, right? You go to a theater, Mako beat, that's my seat, right? It's a side seat. Okay, so. As to Mako beat. Astutuyakupi. Okay, Astutuyakupi. Astutuyakupi. Yeah, Astutuyakupi, which means come here and sit. What this means is that you're asking somebody that's a bar to come to the close proximity of the speaker and sit. Astutuyakupi. Okay, come and sit down, right? Or if he's out in the audience over there, looking in from the door, and he understands Blackfoot, that's the Yaakov, Pete, that's the Yaakov. Come in and sit down. That's the Yaakov. Right? Commands, yeah, it all has that beat in there to sit down, right? And then, of course, this person comes in, and there's no empty chairs over here, and remember that away from me. Statupi. Statupi. Yeah, so you're gonna be walking away. Statupi. Am I going too fast? Everybody's kind of saying, what did I say to it? Is it telling me to leave or come and sit down? It's all about commands. It's all about listening to these commands day in and day out. The moment you get up out of bed, you start getting commands from your parents, all in one, right? And pretty soon, you're tying your own shoelaces. Pretty soon, you're finding your own jacket. Pretty soon, you're going out the door without having to be reminded of your lunch. All those commands need. Plus. Okay. Kristen.
Are we done on the next one?
Yeah, do you wanna go over them real quick? Let's go through them. Hey, whoa. So, box support, everybody. Again, everybody wait. Like this. And, you know, whichever is appropriate to your culture, that's gonna be spelled out. Some of us go like that. That's that one thing. If you want bingo cards and that, hey, what's the word? Right. So, box support, okay? Box support, again. 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 Box support. Box support. Box support. Box support. Yeah, the friendly giant. Look way. Then, see the big moccasin? Not a big boot, it's a very big moccasin. And I'll call Nidawaki. We don't have a word for a giraffe, so I'm gonna have to come up with a different name, something indigenous, right? Even Rusty is not indigenous, so it has to be a Geetaki. Hey, I'll call it Geetaki. And then a Geetaki will pop out of this, what is that, a sack? If it's a sack, burning giant, right? You know, it starts talking something. And I'll call Jerome. Not a giraffe, but maybe a Bunaga or a six-to-stew, something that's native to this area and come in and have a program, sing. Yeah, okay, so box of wood, everybody? Okay. And then the opposite is? Everybody go like this. Again. Like this. Like this. Yeah. If your dog comes over and you don't want him to tell him. What about your boss? What do you say that? What's Mr. Wood? And then they're gonna chase away somebody that's selling something in front of your door. What are you gonna say? Either beat or what? Mr. Wood. I know what your product. I'd rather use brain X. So beat. Everybody. Beat. Now, beat. Come in. Plural. Beak. Very easy. Beak. 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 All right. And then go outside. Sets it. Sets it. Okay, sets it. Why? Because it's recess in the building. Sets it. And then, of course, ma go beat. Everybody. No, ma go beat. Ma go beat. Ma go beat. Ma go beat. Okay, everybody clap your hands 3 times. Ma go beat. Ma go beat. Ma go beat. Snap and bring it. 3 times. Ma go beat. Marco, and your neighbor, come on ahead, Marco.
No.
So, and then, Maduya, oh, beep, Maduya, oh, beep, Maduya, oh, beep, Maduya, oh, beep. Now, think of it as a real command, right? Think of somebody you want to go sit down. Maduya, oh. Maduya, yeah, Maduya, Maduya, yeah. And then, Astuya, oh, beep. Astuya, go beep. Astuya, go beep. Astuya, go beep again. Astuya, go beep. If you guys were Vikings and that, right, that'd be quick to say, hey, Astuya, go beep. Astuya, go beep. Astuya, go beep.
That's gonna be me at Dragon Boats this weekend.
Yeah, I use that, get into the rhythm. Marco, Marco, you hit your drum. Okay, is that, away from the speaker, right? Is right here, and Stupid, stew is S-T-O, but you can spell it S-T-E-W, stew. Stupid. Yeah. Is anyone of the, stew? There is more, right?
We'll send you some with them.
So, there you are. Hearing these words over and over and over again as a child, and that you start to develop the language of yourselves, English, German, Japanese, and that, all these commands, and that as they're developing their childhood, they start to learn these commands, they start to learn the language, because what you need to do, we need to do, is we need to hear these words first. Because they make it smooth, right? These are action words that require some action of that person you're telling. So you actually do magopi, quickly, and then you stand, I don't have to do, right? But we want them to sit, that's our overall goal, is to provide some sort of boundaries within the children, your children, and your teachers, create those environments by using these commands, right? Depending on the voice, if I say these in my normal, just a normal voice without a teacher coming, possible, particularly possible. Is there a different sound to that? Right, very sound, possible, particularly possible. Then, possible, gotta call up the dinner, because I don't hear, right? So, the language of those First Nations or any language about that, it begins right here. It's those type of commands that, so teach them to your boss in it down. If you have a budget, teach them these words. Repeat them. When you guys leave here, sing them. Bosa boom, bosa boom, bosa boom, bosa boom. It's gonna be my new dance. Okay, so hurry. My favorite word. My favorite word. Need. Again. So everybody say need, you're needy. Get. Need. I hate this word sometimes, but I've been told that. I like to take a shave in the morning, brush my teeth, lock the door. And that's my. So need to get, in essence, that we're telling that person to hurry up. Need to, right? Need to. Right? Need to. Can I use that word for this? Need to get my copy. Hurry up and sit down. Right? Need to get my copy. Need to get my tuya copy. Need to get set. Huh? Hurry, right? Need to hurry up. Remember this one, guys. That's the most important. This is going to be going out today. Need to get. Our movie starts in, yeah. Guys, learn that real good. Mike, hey. So neat, Becky. Now, we're all want some form of conformity within our immediate family, or if you're teachers. In any setting that, this is something that we want them to do. As growing up as a child, I was told this probably a million times. Because the language in the sense that we have to conduct ourselves within this group. Because we have elders, and we have our parents, we have uncles, and we have aunties that we have to conform to, right? This second word right here is called istanopi. The first part of it is sitting means to listen. Did you see the word eat in there, to sit? There? Istanopi. One of the things that when you go into the, let's say a teepee of elders that are visiting each other, and I go in, and I put on my phone, oh no, and I go in, one of the first things, somebody within the dwelling, the teepee says, Tsiki, istanopi. Not necessarily because they want you to sit and just be quiet. They want you to listen to what's happening with those two individuals, or what's happening within that surrounding. Why? Because then you can see and hear the language, how these two people are conducting themselves back and forth, right? So through istanopi and that, we're able to sit and listen, right? And you start to learn these things, and not because we want them to just sit still and not talk. We want them to engage as much as possible through their eyes and their ears into what's happening in that environment. These two people are elders, and I come in, and somebody says, "Stanopi," and I sit. They just continue engaging back and forth as husband and wife, or you know. Then I would see them. That is stanopi. I want to hear them, right? Because one of the things that we do use lots of are our eyes and our ears. That's why we only have one of these, right? Got 2 eyes and got 2 ears, and we use them. So stanopi would be something you tell a child or anybody, because the goal is you want that person who makes those observations, what's happening, right? The stanopi. Who got your son? And we use this same terminology in any audience that we have in any schools. Because we want these individuals to look at the leader who is the teacher, who's going to give out some guidance, what's happening during the day and so forth and that, right? It's sound you're hearing, sitting and listening. Huh? So that's kind of something I really had to, not necessarily in a sense, I got told this quite a bit now, but because of my sitting and listening to them, I gained a lot of knowledge and speech, right? And listen to that language, and boy, I can speak Blackfoot like, I can speak Latin. I can speak Latin. And another one too, it's spooky. Yeah, this subtlety means you're just sitting and listening. It's spooky is that when you start to pitch, you know, you start about your neighbor and that, right? You talk, it's spooky, right? It's subtlety, it's spooky, sit still, right? Because any teachings that we have in that is not going to be in this structure, where I have a board, a whiteboard, and so forth. The teachings of the First Nations and that, we need to have our audience, which is our children, to carry the values, you know, our way of life, the culture of the people, by allow them to sit within ourselves. Now, nobody's excluded. Okay, kids, go play outside. If you wish to sit, exclude the sun, right? And we sit in those, you know, very welcome, and we watch them. And if we go, my guy is sleep was, that's it. You know, and we chase out both play. I understand that kids need to play, they need to engage themselves in it. But if they wish to sit in, these two individuals who are engaged in conversation, then I will sit, but I need to be spooky, this sun. Make sense? Huh, Sagati? Everybody, this makes sense, you just go, hey, that's how we do. Okay. So the word over here is listen, sit quiet, right here. Is, see, yeah. Is. It's the same word, you say kiss, take out the K and it's is, yeah. Is, see, yeah. Yeah, you kind of take out that A there, is, see, yeah. I make that vowel sound like an A, but I don't actually say it. Is, see, right? Sige, is, see, Hookana is, see, right? Hookana is, see. And then they're listening, but they're fidgeting, sanopi, extopi, right? Commands, right? It's very important that, you know, with any culture that if you're gonna be engaging in the learning process and that, any language development requires hearing and hearing and hearing and behaving as such that you're gonna take all the stimuli that you see, right? Take it in here, you see it, then you carry it about yourselves in that fashion. You know, those boundaries are set for us because we want to learn the language. Okay? Now here's one. Istiwakik. Istiwakik. Yeah. I put it in singular, istiwakik. In plural, it would be istiwakik. Right? Kick. Now,
In this particular case, you've got IIS, and the other ones, you've got IF.
oh, we forgot that. Krista, we did an S right there. I like that. He's been in my class for like, since way back in the times.
So you gotta listen to me as a group and singular, is it listen to us or is it you listen?
Me, yeah, you listen to me. This see what get me, right? It's a whole new word when I say if there's an audience of us talking, this see what they're getting on. Getting on, which means all this audience. Well, it's a lot of okay. You guys would be walking out and everybody home and a bunch of laughing. Awesome. So, you know, this is just something that's small, a child would learn through this and that. And then later on, because she's got the root word, then he'll start to learn, okay, there's a suffix sound at the end of that. And it becomes a group of us. This is Siwakakinan. This Siwakakinan. Nan is the group, right? This Siwak, says, you know, let's listen to him right there. Next one. This says. Yeah. So I'm talking to you. This says Maki. This says oh Yimika. He's marking all that. This says. Everyone dance. Listen to that person, right? So I turn on the TV and the State of the Union is gonna come on, our premier or our mayor is gonna talk about the water shortage that's happening in Calgary. And I'll tell you, what's this? Listen to that person. Right? These are all commands and that excopi, sanopi, listen to that person. All commands that require us to behave in a fashion so that we can embrace and listen to the language as it works right in front of us, right? It is working, it's a living language and we're living it, I am in it. But I am required to do these behaviors so that I can embrace and take in that stimuli that is speech, that is Blackfoot, right? In school, I tell you, I didn't conform to the ideas of this is a B, it sounds like buck. And I'll say, no, it's a took. And a took. That's how I was talking. Yes. You know, many of us we have hearing aids. Many of us have issues with our hearing because of the whacks that we had for our teachers, our residential school. And pretty soon, all they do is look at you and think it's a ball, you know, very harsh. But anyways, that was the school that was, and we changed the whole fabric, you know, to change the school is friendly. School is a friendly place to learn, right? So we incorporated Blackfoot. And the teachers are friendly, you know, but the generations that were, these are our grandparents and our parents and that. You know, they still have maybe some trust issues they may have, but they're, you know, they're starting to really change. Because schools nowadays in our communities are controlled locally by individuals that are board members from the community, principals that are from the community, teachers that are from the community, meaning that if you go to St. Louis School where I work, 99.9% of the people who work in that school are from Canada. Right? Maybe one person would be an Napi one or not Yapi. So that's how schools have changed now, eh? So you come into a school, the first person you'll see is your secretary, who happens to be from the community. Oh, it's Napi, and oh, hey, my sister. So, you know, the schools, even the whole, you know, the what was now, we've sort of changed it now that it's more welcoming of institutions that were in that, right? We really moved forward. Tracy, that you? Hey, aloha, what is that? Huh? Kiora. She went to New Zealand for 10 days. On a cultural exchange. And one of the things that I got a text from was my granddaughter, who's at the university as well too. She texts me, says, Grandpa, is there a Blackfoot word for the Maori? Now again, think of the Maori, the culture. What was the first thing that popped into your head? Anybody? Mike, Kristen, what's the first thing that you thought that just popped into your head? Something culture about the Maori.
Tattoo?
The tattoos?
The haka,
The haka? Did I say anything else?
the face.
Well, what? Yeah, what? You know what? Our impression, the first, but of course, everybody dances. We all dance, right? The Scottish have their dance, their skirts, whatever, you know. And in the English, you know, kind of dances the English, but everybody dances, right? We understand.
Like
the
Bridgerton?
culture of,
Like a Bridgerton dance,
yeah.
a ball.
So, you know, the whole culture of those people, we know they dance. So we don't describe the dance. It's while they're dancing is they make their faces. Ah, ah. So we call them apescalants. They make faces. That's the name we gave them, right? We call them Mari. Well, what does Mari mean? It's not even something else, but we gotta make reference to a new culture. And we see them dance, the men and the women make, start making faces.
Everybody.
And then we
So
call them
good.
scouts, they make faces. Yeah. Is that appropriate?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
We all dance, right? Do you dance?
Well.
The more,
We all dance, every culture on earth has some form of dance. So we don't indicate, okay, they're dancing, yeah, everybody else dances, but what's specific about their dance? It's how they make their faces. Opposites. You know, even when they're spinning their, I want to show you.
Po?
Huh?
po, is that what it's called?
Yeah, no, those poles, the
With the-
women, and their sticks.
There's like
you know, they
two
dance
balls.
and that, but they're always making faces.
It's very cool.
Yeah, I've been to Hawaii, well, hotter than heck. So the culture of the people
That's
is we
different.
describe who they are. We describe something very characteristic of what they do, whether they dance, while they're dancing, how they dress, right? Okay, everybody remember,
Do we want to go over this or are we moving on?
should we go over this? Yeah. Okay. Nika get, Nika get, Nika get, Nika get. Good, okay. It's time to be, it's time to be.
It's time to be, it's time to be.
You know, what was the teacher? I want to go back to the residential school, all right, sing this song.
Make the face.
Yeah, maybe. Like a heart. It's time to be, it's time to be, Esta no be. What's that song to, by the way? I never can, I always use it.
Farmer.
Oh, yeah. Farmer. You know why I use that, it's just a free beat. And when we started teaching the culture of the language and then, some of the teachers in the immersion program were part of the process of teaching the language. They said, song, get out there and start singing the song, and you know something that's 3 beat. And I thought, hey, instead of but now, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, yeah, 1, 2. And then you give the students instruments, little tambourines, rattles, you know, bells.
He is.
There you go,
he is
1, 2, 3.
Alright.
1,
He's
2, 3.
auditioning.
What's that?
Blackfoot,
Yeah,
Mr.
really
Rogers.
are. Like, yeah, Blackfoot, Mr. Rogers.
What's that?
This is his
Blackfoot,
audition
Mr.
tape.
Rogers, you can have your own show real quick.
Yeah, no kidding, yeah. I'll just have some puppets.
I'll
I need a bear, I can have somebody else, I can guide you, the guy.
Let's get him some puppets right away.
Yeah, you know what? I'd love that. I would love it, but the thing is, things cost money. Where are we
Sponsor.
getting funding and that? Who's gonna, you know, we need a studio, we need cameras, we need lighting, we need, you know, we need water. Somebody's gotta feed me. No, but we need to have things like that out there. We need to inundate the media with this, a lot of stuff like this. You know, get out there, get two puppets to talk to each other in dialogue. Oh, I never lost so much listening to two individuals exchange back and forth with Blackfoot. It was just, nothing was interpreted, I didn't need an interpreter, all I needed was a good ear, sound, that's what I did. And the stories, well, it just flowed. And then there was a bit of a, well, not necessarily a big one there, but there's some learning through the story, but at the same time, the ending, it's not what you're listening to. It's within that story is something that kind of you learn from, right? It's a story of Napi. Like in essence, a Napi's story is something, it's within what he did in the context of the story that you don't do, right? There's gonna be an ending, of course, and that, what did he do within the context of that story, right? You know, there's the protagonist and antagonist, well, Napi himself was both, right? The elements, how did he deal with the elements in nature, so. Kristen,
Oh my
we
god.
got a blue screen.
Oh my god.
Oh, how are we doing so far? Am I going too fast or too slow or? Okay, so, look at me. Look at me. I say, Mr. Blue.
No,
Huh?
go ahead,
Get go.
go ahead.
Go away, good. Pete,
Come in.
good. Está no Pete. Está no Pete.
I'm listening.
Sit down and listen. Está, is seeing is listening. Está no Pete. 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 Or else. And of course, I'm gonna do, where are we? Right here. Excopy, excopy, right? If somebody's, you know, sitting and fidgeting and, you know, it's excopy, right? In the culture of the Blackfoots and that, our goal is to have these people sit and listen and learn and watch how two elders and the parents engage in the language, right? Language learning, that's how we learn, Sarupi, Excopi, and the next one is Istiwakit. 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 Okay? Point to yourself, you want that first, Istiwakit. Istiwakit, you vote for me, I'll have lots of water to cover me. Istiwakit. We're never gonna run out of water. Let's see what get right. Let's see what We're gonna be, we'll have a good 10-day celebration where there are no water issues.
Who remembers water in Blackfoot?
Oh, come over here, come. One of the things, when our family members, when they travel and that, we like to call our utak, our spirits and that, and I'm just glad that my sister, oh, thank God you're home. Hey. She went to New Zealand, and my goodness, she went with my granddaughter and about 10 others from the University of Lethbridge, and that was a cultural exchange. And, it's a 10-hour, 11-hour flight, right? Straight, right? There's no pause, straight there from Vancouver.
We drove from Calgary to San Francisco, which was like
With a mic.
4 hours.
Give her the mic.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I kind of put on my hat there.
We drove from Calgary to San Francisco, which was 3 hours. Then we drove from San Francisco to Auckland, which was like 12 hours.
Oh.
Oh, my gosh, it was crazy.
Yeah.
But it's amazing to see how the Maori language has been preserved. Even, there's just one indigenous language. And it's amazing to see even the non-natives, non-indigenous people, they know the language too. They have a fully integrated immersion program where they learn the stories, the songs, they even have it phonetically on the board. Then they know the language. Yeah, it was really amazing. Eye-opening to see how far they've come.
Yeah.
And they started back in the 70s.
Yeah.
So they're a few decades ahead of us. But I think we have a lot to learn from them.
Yeah.
And I hope you like your hat.
Oh, I love it, yeah, it's what you think, eh?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, but, oh, hey. And it's really good, oh, hey. Don't chat now. Oh, thank you, oh. My sister. Huh? Lots to share, way back in 1999, the first annual World Indigenous People of Education was hosted by the Hawaiians. We went there, they had workshops from, language, song, just different people had a breakout session, right? And one of the things I learned is that the Hawaiian, in essence, too, they're trying the same thing as the Maoris. They opened up immersion schools and that, and of course, the biggest part of those schools is that because it's in the United States, and that in order for them to open up a school for Hawaiian, they would have to make it their own money. It's not a government funded type of school, so the Hawaiians themselves, few, in essence, they're a very minority group in a very large island, right? Small majority, it's a small minority. So within themselves, and that their biggest task is to have these schools. And while we have speakers, just have Hawaiian, nothing but Hawaiian in there. And it's an uphill battle like everybody else. Statistically, in 1999, #1 in illnesses, #1 in, of course, addictions and so forth. #1 in high school dropouts. So, those things are affected, the colonialization of the Americans, right? The 50th state, right? And they said that we didn't agree for the Americans to come here. They just put them, they're of course the military might that they are and they established Pearl Harbor, right? So, it's an uphill battle for them. The Maori, on the other hand, they, in partnership with the governments, they encourage them. Because, the Maoris themselves, that they are the majority, right? The Maori people, they are the majority of the island. And they are way far ahead in their program in retaining the language, not necessarily retaining. They already know the language, and that how can we continue to retain the language at a level that's not going to be affected like most languages here in North America, right? statistically, we had one person that's from the BC, I can't say the community that is from that. But she spoke on some of the language issues that they had. And they were showing them on film, the last 30 people of that language. When that language dies, it dies. There's just them, there's just that community that speaks. And there's only 2,000 in that community. 30 left. And they were showing them on the screen, they were like 85, 90 years old. 85, 90 years old, they were just old, right? They could barely, and they were trying to film them. And of course, you know, the culture of some people and that, they don't like to, you know, they're very shy, right? They start shying away from the cameras and so forth. But the effort is there, and the young people are there willing to learn. You know, I think we have one of the most largest population of First Nations children right here in Canada. Everybody else is not having children, but the First Nations people in that group, we still have kids. Yeah, we're still having children. We need to have Blackfoot. Blackfoot is the culture, you know, the culture that we're in our batteries.
Siobhan? Can I have some more batteries?
Can you still hear me? I'll just use my old teacher voice. So, you know, it's something that the language is the culture. You cannot have the culture and just have me up here dancing and drumming for you guys and so forth. That's not really who we are, right? If I put on a bunch of beads and feathers and I start dancing for you all, hey, it's something cultural over there. What? That's it's something that's, we all dance. It's just part of the culture, the subculture that we are. But when you start to look at the language, and you start to discover how we view the world, then how we conduct ourselves as individuals, how we interact with our women, how we interact with our friends and so forth, the stories that we tell, the interpretations of the new ideas, that's the culture of the people. Because our world is much different than the world that was, right? All you did, the colonialists, is that they came in and established what was already back home. But we had to learn the whole thing right from scratch, right? Monarchy. We didn't know who, you know, we didn't know who this queen was. So we called this person Ninawat. Nina, of course, is the word we use for leader, chief. So obviously he's an Aki, so we use Ninawat to indicate he's the leader, the woman leader, right? And anybody that's a chief, a Nina, a mayor, what's the mayor's name? Is it Carpenter? Huh?
Blaine.
Blaine?
Higgins.
Higgins? Well, anyways, anybody that has a leadership role, like this Galt Museum, a guy said the Ganal is what they call it, as a CEO, right? And it's, what's her name?
Sarah.
Sarah. So he would be a Ninawagi, Gi Nina, which means a woman leader. So we're using our language to indicate leadership roles, right? We don't use the word queen, we just say Ninawagi, that is the leader, right? But when you say queen in English, and that there's a sense of thinking that there's royalty, right? Queen, because the culture of those people and that, as you know, there's years in the word queen, you start to use that word in English, and that English speakers and that they attach to royalty, right? Queen, royal. In our language, we just say, well, that's the woman leader, you know what? And that's what she is, a leader of a country. With, of course, the passing of the queen, we have a king, which is a whole new different term. And it doesn't indicate leader. We know that the crown that he wears indicates a symbol of leadership, right? Put the crown on, and everybody bows, whatever they do that. So as we see that, we say, okay, the crown indicates leadership, okay? So, but then they have a wig underneath the crown. It's not their real hair, right? And we call that person Istikini. What does that mean, Istikini? When he puts that crown on his head probably is itchy. An itchy head. That's what we call the king. Istikini, right? With the bumps on his head and that. But then, we're describing the crown, right, it's Tsipinina. It's their crown man, their crown leader is Tsipin. So this is my crown. And when I put it on, it means something to the English, and that everybody has to conform to my leadership, right? So, that's what we do, is what we see, we describe. But the Nina is always gonna be there. Because Nina is our leaders, right? Nina, that's what I am, man, but I'm also some leader within my family, right? Nina. Ninawa. Women. So that's how we view this new world, right? With each new municipality as leadership. Nina, how much in there, right? When we, excuse me, we signed the treaty, and that's what they call the treaty, and which means there is some kind of decision making that trickle down from somebody on top, and and it reached us, right? And then those treaties and that, and that, once we sign those treaties with the crown, or there was a new symbol that was given to our chiefs, were the Nina. They were called Ohkinina. Ohkin is a necklace, okay? Ohkin. Nina is the leadership. Ohkinina, the leader who wears the medallion, who wears the necklace, right? Ohkinina. So Chief Red Crow was given that medallion. So that symbolizes, okay, he is Ohkinina, that is the leader. And we still use that same medallion every election. If I run for chief, I want to wear the biggest medallion. Right, seriously? So those things, and we have to describe it because now they indicate leadership. Ohkinina, person who wears the necklace. So that's just how we describe things. Like these new ideas, we gotta give definition to them because they're a part of our world, these communities and so forth. Each new breed of dog, we have to give it a name, right? Greyhound and so forth. And then of course, you and I every morning, we eat our cereal with milk. And that milk comes from not only an Abbottskin, but a Jersey cow. And we call those exit poison, which means those are the animals that we milk, exit poison, right? Very descriptive. Kristen! Our screen, we're gonna move back to our commands here. So any questions?
Well,
Who's first?
well, how do you say cougar? Because it wasn't on your list and there.
Cougar.
Because there's everything about it right now. See, I have my question prepared.
Oh, my God. Is there a whole bunch of them?
There's one.
One?
He said,
So a cougar is an indigenous animal, and we already have a name for that. A Notgai is a bobcat or lynx, Notgai. A cougar is a Ochkakai. Ochkakai. Okay, a cougar, Ochkakai, which is an indigenous animal. All these indigenous animals already have names, okay? It's these new animals that are coming, the Irita, the Bos, the Abbottskin, eggs, and those are new animals that we have to give names to. What's an egg? Anybody? Anybody? Tim! Hey, yeah, when you think of eggs, you think of and so. Okay? So these new animals need to have a name because they are part of our world. Okay? Even the spices that we use every day, salt, we have to give it a new name. It's never been part of our culture. We never used salt. Okay? So you're given a product now, then it's not good. It's except for food. Very tastes bitter. That's what that means. Very bitter taste. It's acceptable. It tastes very bitter. That's what we describe salt, okay? And of course, if somebody gives you some black stuff and you put it on your eggs, then it's not bitter. Oh, it's called pepper. You eat it. That stuff, it tastes like tobacco. Yeah, that stuff there, You ever smoke a cigar and breathe it in? Right, that texture and the feeling in your mouth and that, well, probably pepper at that time, we've never had pepper, right? You give somebody that's indigenous pepper that never had it, it's gonna describe exactly what it tastes like, according to what already is culture. We don't borrow it from another culture, it's within the culture of the people we name them. Right? There's no other context. All our languages are right here. There's no borrowed language from Latin or the Romans or the Greeks. It's right here, the language. And we use that to describe things. Make sense? Yeah. Hey, go like this. Hey, again. Hey. One more time. Hey. Say that you mean. Hey.
On the 3 count.
Okay. Now, everybody. Who got? This is a command. Who got? Yeah. Sleep. Who got? Yeah. Who got sleep? You know, they're already in bed and they're just telling, who got? Who got? Come on, you got. Let's say who got? Next one is, what do you got? Yeah, remember that? What do ya Kopi? What do you got? Yeah. What do you got? What do you got? What do you got? What do you got? Yeah. Now, of course, you want that person to move away from you as a speaker, right? It's gonna either go upstairs, downstairs, wherever his bedroom is. What do you got? And in the morning, when your alarm wakes you up, you know, it'll say, boogity, 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 boogity. Now, these are things we didn't have to invent. It was already are in our language for hundreds of thousands or whatever. But these words are still exist today. We still use that. But then nothing changed. Boogity. Boogity. Okay? And after they do, then they tell them what. What is a word where they're in a laying state. If they're laying on the couch, they're laying on the floor, if they're laying in bed, we tell that person what. Okay? From a laying position. It's different when you're sitting. I say it. Yeah, which I don't think I had it. Right? So if I was laying on the ground on my bed and the person said, hey, what? Get up, right? You're in a laying state. But if I'm sitting there, I'll say, you know, stand up. Got it? So got it? Okay, let's go for the top. Ooh, God. Ooh, God. Ooh, God. Ooh, God. Oh, God. Oh, God. Oh, God. All right, there we won. By oh, God. Okay, now this one. Ma do you got? 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 Ma do you got?
We are not starting a choir.
I don't think we're gonna win at the Kiwanis Swim Festival. Right? Wait, I gotta recruit some singers. Ma do you got? Boo, kake. 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 Okay, say it with authority, because you want that person to get up, right? Okay, okay. Okay. I can't hear you, then I'm not gonna get up, I'm just gonna continue laying down. Okay. Okay. Again. Close your eyes. Again. Think of somebody who's just lazy around your house. Okay. Sleeping in. Or you've been playing your Xbox all night, haven't you? Okay. Are we done? Is there some more?
Yeah.
Okay, so those are kind of the commands for your children, right? Box of food, you know, as your, this is something we all can use. right here, just a little bit of conversation here. When somebody's gonna ask your name, I've heard this. Sakitani food, which is totally false. My personal, this is the proper form. If somebody tells you different, you tell them, Mr. Delaney said this is the proper form. You know what? They're so, yeah, okay. Yeah. Sa, everybody say sa.
Sa,
Gi,
gi,
since,
sits,
ska,
ska,
sim,
sim,
sa, since, ska, sim.
sa,
Sa, since, ska, sim. Sa, since, ska, sim. Sa, since, ska, sim. Sa, since, ska, sim. Look to the person to your left and say that. Sa, since, ska, sim. Sa, since, ska, sim. Look at somebody in their eyes.
right in their eyes.
Okay, look at my eye and say that. Sa, since, ska, sim. Sa, since, ska, sim. Ah, everybody, hold your hand like this. You're not going to say how. Sa, since, ska, sim. Everybody.
Sa,
Since, ska, sim. Sa, since, ska, sim. What you're doing is that, you know, the Hollywood tonight, you were probably saying that, but then when we started filming, it's like, oh. It's very appropriate to say, it's not, what you're doing is that you're saying this as to, you know, not necessarily science, but by doing this, you're indicating that you want to hear that person's name. Not, you know, like this, not, you know, just like this. It's almost like you're cupping your hand like that. But you put it in front, that's all Blackfoot silent, silence and discussing, right? And that person wants to hear your name, okay? Right? No Hollywood stuff, don't say how, just go like this. It's just a little indicating that, it's almost like a little horn, right? But you put it in front right here. Silence and discussing, right? You want to hear that person. Okay, everybody. Silence and discussing. Sa, since, ska, sim. Sa, since, ska, sim. Sa, since, ska, sim. What is the response? Point to yourself, right here. Not necessarily point, like just go like this. This is you, right? Use your whole hand. Ni, since, ska, sim, and say your name. Ni, since, ska, sim, Julius. Ni, since, ska, sim, Julius.
What's the Nistoical?
Well, if I was in an audience and I am the keynote speaker and I speak Blackfoot, I would say like this, Nistoical Big-Assistant, right? Two people who are friends and, you know, they know each other, they're in the same class. They use this, science and discuss, it's in discuss.
It's in Ska.
It's only when, it's appropriate when you use historical, is when you're addressing an audience and you are probably the keynote speaker, or the audience has a purpose while you're there. Ceremony, right? Historical, be that assistant. And then I started to. So it's what you're saying is, I am spotted eagle. That's what I'm saying, historical, I am, right? Whereas the name, right? I am as opposed to it's in Scots and my name is, right? Historical. Names actually, since we're here, you hear the names of in our communities like Long Time Squirrel, what's another one? Weasel Head, Heavy Head, across the mountain, it means Neetochts. Neetochts is what they say across, it's just a small little word. Neetochts, across the mountain. Those names, at one time when they went to register in the Indian agents, in the offices of the Indian agent, and then you go there and you register. You are a member of the communities and that. And then the interpreter would say, that. What is your name? Right? And then a person will say in Blackfoot, I want to use my mom's maternal Blackfoot name, I mean, her last name, before she got married, was Weasel Moccasin. So she would say, the person who went to go register, would say, this guy's some, it's a weasel moccasin, right? So the Indian agent, I said, what's his name? Oh, he said weasel moccasin. They'll write it down, but now you're gonna give yourself a Christian name. Your name is Paul, Joe, okay, George, very simple names in that. And then, don't you kind of think those names are kind of biblical? Adam, right? Eve. Those were some of the first names in that. So their last names were actually their real names. That's who they were, still a little beat as. So I go in there, and the Indian agent, it'll say, it's like it's in this guy's, beat as the interpreter, his name is, Spotted Eagle. Okay, Julius Spotted Eagle, the directors. That's how we got our names. So then, two different people, they had their brothers, their biological brothers, they're the moms and their dads, they have two different names, right? So we go into the Indian agent, and the person will say, it's like this guy's, I'll make it, okay, reason honest. And then the other person will come in, you say, it's like time, what's your name? Well, it's this guy's from our series, Weasel Tail. Okay, your last name is Weasel Tail. That would be your name, but we're brothers, right? But on records, and that would have two different names, there's no relationship there, right? But we are. And that was some of the confusions that they had out there. Some of these families had two different last names, but they were closely related, right? And as dads and grandfathers, and as we go out into the communities, and we need to tell these stories of our bloodline, where we came from, still a go, and then you start to introduce your family, especially up here, right? The family, and you start to go, oh, okay, that's how I related with that person. Yeah. So where are we? Okay, Nitsenskasim, point to yourself on this. Nitsenskasim, buckshot. Nitsenskasim, Elmo. Nitsenskasim, what's his name again, the mayor? Higgin. Nitsenskasim, and what's our premiers? Who's our premier? Oh, anyways, Nitsenskasim. I don't know who's our premier.
You can't say your name out loud.
You can't say it, say like, don't say it. The person you can't say is, I watched that.
She who shall not be.
He cannot say his name. Oh, I said. Okay, so let's go to the top. Sa, and say it.
Sa, Kitziskasim.
Okay, everybody go like this. Sa, cup your hands and you say, Sa, it's in the sky, sim.
Sa.
Almost indicated if you want to hear it, right? Sa, it's in the sky, sim. You kind of tilt your head a little bit. Sa, it's in the sky, sim, right? You want to hear that. Sa, it's in the sky, sim, right? All right, say that.
Sa, Kitziskasim.
Okay, you. Go on, this.
Yeah, Holly.
Yeah, cup your head.
Sa, Kitziskasim.
Yeah, you want to be on time to the sky, so if you want to hear literal, and you want to hear that person. Go like that, time to the sky, so you want to hear it. Tracy, say it, now. Okay, let's take it right here with Mike, I want to hear it, nice and loud. Okay. Stop. Okay, and what's the response? It says, Scott, sing.
Kitziskasim.
It's Scott, sing. It's all orange. It's Scott, sing. It's Scott, sing. It's Scott, sing. Oh, I.
Nailed it.
Yeah. So those are very, just very conversational and that. I always go gas up. I was on my way to Sitzigo and then I stopped off in Bolton, gas up. And I thought, let's see. I wanted to know this person's name, cashier, kind of look like it's a name tag. Rather than go, it's like it's in Scotts, and more like this, yeah, it's like it's in Scotts. So, okay. Kristen! Where's Danny tonight?
A Drake show.
Where?
The Drake show.
Graduation.
Oh.
No. Greg,
I know. How much time do I got, Mike?
like 4 minutes.
4 minutes.
This is only the last two
Okay,
things.
these are the last two. Sama, Sima,
Sima.
do. Sima, do. Sima, do. Sima, do. Okay, you can use that. Sima, do. And you can use any one of the communities that we shared. Some masculine. Doch, and when you're saying, nee, doch, do. Nee, doch, do.
Nee, doch.
Nee, doch, do.